Arboretum. My name is Hadley Anderson. I'm the education specialist here, and with me today is Tim Kroessig. He is our horticultural manager here at Lyon Arboretum, and as you can see, we're in our beautiful greenhouse today. We had a lot of great viewers who sent in some great questions today, but we just wanted to give a little background on Tim first.
Is it showing sideways?
So you get to know him a little bit better and what we're going to be talking about today. How are you doing, Tim?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Yeah, awesome. So you've worked at Lyon Arboretum for a couple of years now, right?
Yeah. So let's see. I started here at Lyon Arboretum actually as a volunteer, as a service learning student, more than a decade ago, and then worked my way, while going to school as a student hire, while earning my bachelor's degree in horticulture and soil science, and then also while I was going to graduate school for my master's degree in botany. So yeah, I've been around for a while. This place definitely grows on you, and I love working in the greenhouses now and helping to cultivate and care for all these beautiful plants that we have here.
Well, I can see that you're doing a lovely job, as you can see, with all of our lovely background here in the greenhouse. Awesome. So we did have a couple of questions that came up as we were going through. So we did have a question from Deb about tomato plants.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Tomatoes.
So what her question was is that she seems to be having an issue with browning of the leaves. Yeah.
All right. Well, I did take a look at the picture that you sent, Deb, and thank you for that. But with tomatoes, they're really not an easy crop to grow here in Hawaii. You would think the nice warm climate, the sun, the conditions would be great to grow all sorts of fruits and vegetables here, right? Well, unfortunately, because we don't have a harsh winter here, we have a lot of pests and diseases that build up their populations over the course of the year, and we don't have a winter to kind of knock them back and kill them. And basically over time, through agricultural imports, through the landscape industry, through humans traveling, we've had a number of pests and diseases introduced here to Hawaii that have now really taken, a foothold and make it very hard, especially for the home gardener, to cultivate crops like tomatoes. So really, I struggled with tomatoes over the years. I know many other people who have. You can grow them maybe for a month, maybe two. You get one harvest, and then the plant shrivels up and dies, all the leaves turn brown, and you just don't know, what did I do wrong? Well, Deb, you didn't do anything wrong. You did your best, but really the key is selecting the right variety of tomato from the very beginning, because we have diseases, and just to name a few, some of the worst diseases for tomatoes here in Hawaii are the tomato spotted wilt virus, and because tomatoes are also related to other solanaceous or nightshade plants, they are also susceptible to the tobacco mosaic virus. And those are just to name a few. So really, we want to select a good variety of tomato that's going to be resistant, that's been selected, that's been bred specifically to be able to handle the conditions here in Hawaii and to be resistant to these diseases. So based on the picture that you sent me, I think most likely what you're dealing with your tomato was the tomato spotted wilt. There are also other pathogens. If you have white powdery substances on the leaf surfaces, that's going to be powdery mildew. And so there are some things that you can spray for the fungal and for the insects, but a thing like a virus is actually, once virus, there's really nothing you can do. So what I would recommend for you folks that are persistent out there, really look, but really the best thing is to select your varietals to these diseases. So I've had luck with an hybrid that's called Better Bush, I believe Burpee sells it. You can get it at, you know, pretty much any garden shop. But really the best ones of all to grow in Hawaii are the ones that were bred and developed here in our own state by the University of Hawaii at Manoa College and Human Resources. Believe it or not, tomato breeding for about 75 years.
Oh my goodness.
And so they have 2 different vine type tomatoes and 3 different bush type tomatoes bred for the conditions here in Hawaii.
So what we're going to do is we're going to link to CTAR, which is the College of
Tropical Agriculture and Human Resources.
Thank you, Tim. We're going to link to them after we post this video later so that you can go and see what the varieties are available on their website too. Nice little plug for University of Hawaii and the studies that they do here that actually help for things to grow here in Hawaii. Since we do have very special conditions, as you were saying, it seems like it's a really great place to grow a lot of things, and it is. But we also are missing some dormant periods, and we do get a lot of other diseases that are brought in
Yeah,
too.
pests and diseases are a big problem out here. One last thing I'll throw in there about tomatoes. Some of the wild tomatoes that you see growing on the side, the currant tomatoes with the really tiny little fruits, and some of the other wild cherry tomatoes, those are actually closer to their wild relatives, and so they're hardier, and they have some of this disease resistance naturally. So although the tomatoes for the currant tomato are this big, your tomato bush is going to last a lot longer and is going to be more resistant to some of those things, where if you just go and select any variety from your garden store, it's selected to grow on the mainland, it's just not going to do as well here. So that's about it for tomatoes. Do we have any other questions?
So we did have a question. Colleen chimed in on our email, and she was asking about some of the endemic species that we grow here at the Arboretum. So I was wondering if, like, what natives we grow and what endemics we grow here in the greenhouse, and do you have any favorites that you can show us?
Right, well, yeah, I mean, our mission here at Lyon Arboretum is the conservation of tropical biodiversity, you know, and so plants are a big component of that, obviously. And so we grow a variety of different native species for different purposes. We work closely with the Hawaiian Rare Plant Program, which includes the Seed Lab and the Micropropagation Laboratory. So they produce plants that we grow out here in the greenhouses. But I also grow things specifically for restoration efforts here in Manoa Valley, because we are in a watershed here, and we do want to do our part to restore our natural ecosystems, provide habitat for native organisms, and ensure that we as humans receive the ecosystem services that these forests provide us. So here we have a Papala kepau, or a Pisonia umbellifera, which is a native species that's actually naturally sourced from the valley here. And so a lot of the native species that we're growing for restoration here at Lyon are actually sourced from the property. And so they're adapted to do as good as possible growing here in the valley. You might be familiar with Papala kepau because it's the bird catcher plant.
Oh.
It has sticky fruits to actually catch the native honey creeper birds to be able to harvest the feathers. So we're growing these here in the greenhouse to a larger size until they're established enough that we can put them in the ground and start the next generation. We also grow things like koa here. This is a baby koa tree.
Oh my gosh.
And once again, this is sourced from remnant populations here in Manoa Valley. As much as we can, we go out onto our property and try and find these natives that are still hanging on, collect seeds, collect propagules, so that we can perpetuate them into the future and continue to restore our ecosystem here within the valley.
Awesome. So I know that we also earlier were posting a little bit about some air layering and things like that, but you have a fern in your hand.
Yes,
so
ferns as well. We are interested in growing more ferns. You know, they're an underutilized native Hawaiian plant, and they really do play a crucial role in our ecosystems, in our forests, as a ground cover, as an understory species. And so this is a hapu'u, a baby hapu'u tree fern that we're growing right here.
You can see some really, really big ones here at Lyon Arboretum when we do reopen again, and you'll be able to come down. So you'll be able to come down and see that hapu'u fern in its adult glory at that point.
And so, you know, you might not recognize this as a tree fern here, and these hapu'u, they do grow very, very slow. It's thought that most likely hapu'u that you see in the wild, if they have a trunk, for every 1 foot of trunk that you see on the tree fern, it took about 10 years for that to grow.
Wow.
So if you see a 10-foot tall hapu'u tree fern, it's potentially 100 years old.
Oh
so, you know, we have some old plants here in the Arboretum that, again, we're sourcing from to continue to propagate keiki and new plants to use in restoration.
So speaking of a slow-growing native plant that's also endemic to Hawaii, we have an ohia right here, right?
Yeah, we do have an ohia lehua here, and it's maybe not looking the best at the moment, but that's because we just recently took this off of the mother tree. This was an air layer, or a way that we as horticulturists can get a stem to actually produce roots while it's still attached to the mother tree. And check out our Instagram if you want to learn more about air layering and how you could potentially use this propagation method to propagate your own plants at home. But the great thing about an air layer is I put this air layer on the tree back in January, and you know, it's April now, and I already have a fully rooted, established, about to flower ohia tree here. And so by doing this via air layer, not only do we get a consistent flower color, the mother plant of this had a red flower, and so this clone here has a red flower, but we also can skip that juvenile stage that we have with seedlings. So, for example, an ohia lehua, or Metrosideros polymorpha, scientifically, from seed would probably take, you know, I'm thinking 5 to 10 years before you start to get flowers, because it is a very slow growing plant. Whereas from cuttings or air layers like this, you know, we're talking 4 months, and I already have a flowering mature tree here. So
phenomenal.
Pretty spectacular.
New question? All right, it looks like we have a new question coming in.
Oh, good.
About citrus trees. Our question asker has Mayor lemon and lime trees, and they're sick. Maybe we can get some more information about how that illness is showing up so that Tim can give us some tips on how to keep our citrus trees sick.
So, but until that moment,
That's what she says. How to keep them healthy.
Well, citrus is another one, you know, that's a really widely cultivated crop, and especially in tropical areas, we do have a lot of issues with diseases. So citrus greening is one of the diseases, and there are a number of other pests. Sharpshooter insect that is a vector for other diseases, such as, you know, citrus greening. But really, depending on the age of your citrus tree, if you're talking about a tree that you've had, you know, for 10, 15, maybe 20 years, really it's potentially just at the end of its life. And that's just because, you know, trees don't remain vigorous for a long period of time, especially something like a citrus. And so what you want to do is probably start a new one from either, you know, a graft, which is a propagation method that we use to perpetuate particular varietals. But it could be something as simple as more watering or more fertilizing. So it's really hard to tell exactly what the problem is, and we would need more specific photos of the leaves, of whatever the die-off is that you're experiencing.
Looks like the leaves are turning yellow.
Yeah, I mean, that could be, 10 different things. It could be a nutrient deficiency. Leaf yellowing is a result of a lack of nitrogen. Or it could be this citrus greening disease that if you look up, it's wiped out crops across the mainland U.S. And I do believe we have it here as well in Hawaii. So again, a widely cultivated crop like citrus, you're going to have a lot of diseases that accumulate. And again, because we don't have that winter to kill off the diseases and pests here in Hawaii, that's going to be a constant issue. So really you want to refresh your material, probably start your citrus plants over every 15, maybe 20 years, maybe sooner, so that you can reinvigorate those plantings. So go out, support your local nursery, pick up some new plants. Frankie's Fruit Tree Nursery out of Waimanalo is a really great option for fruit trees. He grafts all of them.
That's where Tim interned, by the way, before coming to work here.
Yeah.
So have some good connections there. And I just want to give a shout out to Jenna, who's behind the camera right now. She's the one who's the disembodied voice that you're hearing with your questions for us. Bradenell's also assisting us with our Facebook Live right now too.
Yeah, real quick, another great garden shop, local garden shop, Ko'olau Farmers. They got your fruit trees, they got your seeds. I forgot to mention earlier, Fukuda seeds are very good selected seeds, selected crops that grow really well here in Hawaii. So once you're ready to go back out there, practice your social distancing, but do check out Ko'olau Farmers. And stay tuned for our Lyon Arboretum plant sale coming up in the fall, November.
Yes.
Stay tuned.
Oh man, I know that you've got a lot of plants propagated for that, and I'm very, very excited for it. So, okay, one of the things that since we are also talking about diseases with the citrus trees and things like that.
Yes.
We did
Slow
have
down.
a question.
Slow down.
Slow down. We did have a question about when you're hiking and you want something ID, whether that's a disease or a plant, and we have a very loud bird right now, those modern ones. Do you have any tips for taking pictures that would be really useful when you're trying to ID a plant or a disease or a fruit?
So yeah, that is, a service that we provide here at Lyon Arboretum because we are a part of the University of Hawaii system. And we do provide information, help with plant IDs, help with general questions about growing plants, IDing plants. So the real key is to get those characteristics that you're seeing, whether you're looking for an identification. I saw this plant while I was out hiking. I don't know what it is. It's really interesting, and I'd like to get an ID on it. We're happy to take, a look at your questions and try to come up with an ID. We do have extremely knowledgeable staff here, including a trained botanist, horticulturist, and many other dedicated staff that love plants and would love to help you out with your ID questions. But to do our part, we need really good pictures of what you're seeing. So if you're out there and you're hiking, you want a plant identified, the key characteristics that we as plant scientists use to identify plants are mainly the flowers. Floral characteristics are consistent across groups of plants. So a particular family will have similar floral characteristics. And so that's how we use those characteristics to key in on what that plant is. So a really nice close-up picture of a